are these people?
We were talking while we in the independent media were talking about this.
Hmm.
Mainstream media felt it was something more pressing that needed to be talked about, right?
Yeah. Yeah. King of Segways, Collin leading me in. To what they're trying to distract you with. And I tried to pull some extra stuff for this today too, because some stuff came out. Literally watching Jimmy today, had to grab stuff from it. So, but this is from RT, and I know many of you don't get to see that. So we'll cover it a bit. Granted, it's from RT. If we would like to have problems with that, you may. So Snowden labels UFO craze a distraction. Talk of aliens is intended to misdirect from real scandals, the NSA whistleblower says. So the media frenzy over spy balloons and unidentified flying objects over North America is sadly not about first contact with extraterrestrials, but an engineered panic for political misdirection, NSA whistleblower Edward Snowden said on Monday. It's not aliens. I wish it were aliens, but it's not aliens. It's just the old engineered panic and attractive nuisance ensuring national security reporters get assigned to investigate balloon bullshit rather than budgets or bombings such as the Nord Stream, Snowden tweeted. Which he's referencing award-winning investigative journalist Seymour Hersh publishing a story last week describing how the U.S. and Norway blew up the pipelines transporting Russian natural gas to Germany last September. The U.S. government denounced it as false. We'll be covering that this Sunday on How Do We Miss That? If people want to tune into that, I do believe. But yeah, U.S. government essentially told them that,
wrong. You are fake news.
Like, that's pretty much what they said. But over the next several days, the U.S. military began shooting down objects in the sky over North America. National Security Council spokesman John Kirby said on Monday that the U.S. government still doesn't know who owns the 3 objects brought down over the weekend. White House Secretary Karen Jean-Pierre said there was no indication of aliens or extraterrestrial activity. However, Bush has got to be so happy. We're shooting these things out the sky. Anyway, he's got to be so happy.
George Saga from Breaking Points is also kind of let over this too. Although I haven't.
The Hudson Institute probably also, but we got to worry about China. We got to worry about it. So, while authorities don't yet know what the objects are, they are not a threat. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin told reporters on Monday they do not present a military threat to anyone on the ground. They do, however, present a risk to civilian aviation and potentially an intelligence collection threat, and we'll get to the bottom of it. Do you remember last week when we covered a Brett Wilkins article that'll be going up this week on the channel since we were in YouTube jail about hypersonic missiles being able to be fired from balloons? Yes? Okay.
Yes, and you showed me that crazy...
Oh, the drone swarms? Oh yeah, that's great. You were shocked. You had shocked face the whole time, and it was brilliant. So Austin also said that the 3 objects were different from the Chinese spy balloon the U.S. shot down over South Carolina last week. The aerostat, which Beijing described as a weather balloon blown off course by the winds, had passed over most of the continental U.S. before it was destroyed by an F-22 fighter jet. Care Bear, do you remember when this started happening and people worried about the balloon? Do you remember there was a image that went up online of all the possible balloon flight path locations from American air bases to China? Like all those little American air bases and American army bases right around. Okay. Do you think any of them spotted the balloon as it traveled across said Atlantic Ocean? Was that what it was? Which ocean was it? Pacific, I
It was
guess.
specific. Yeah.
Um,
Will make sense if it's going
they
to China,
definitely. I found out today that they definitely Monte covered it. They definitely knew from the beginning where it was going. They watched it go to Hawaii. They watched it then a windstorm push it up north. Like they knew about it the whole time.
Right.
You know. So not only are they lying, they are double dog lying. Like like anyway.
But it makes sense given this derailment, which honestly was the much bigger story. And honestly, like I've been kind of out of I think well with our strike, but then like just life, I've been kind of out of the news cycle for at least a couple of weeks. Honestly, the fact that this happened, I need breaks because it's just too much. Probably
Speaking of
just
which,
as well we got.
has Greta showed up? The thing we covered earlier? No, right?
No,
No.
no, but she has a book out.
That makes sense. You mean?
We saw that when we were prepping last night, and I told you that, like, no, she has a book.
Yeah, that's good for that. We should wish we had thought of that when we did the story. Editors, edit that in to put that at the end of. Okay, thanks. Editors are totally not going to do that. Fanto's like, yeah, fuck you. Anyway, so I've got Caitlin Johnstone here, right? She's bringing some information. This is the WAPO, right? So U.S. officials now say Chinese spy balloon flew over the U.S. accidentally. The Washington Post has a weird new article saying that the Chinese spy balloon we've been hearing about was never intended for a surveillance mission over North America at all. So just saying. So here's what she's pulling from the WAPO. By the time a Chinese spy balloon crossed into American airspace late last month, U.S. military and intelligence agencies had been tracking it for nearly a week, watching as it lifted off from its home base on Hainan Island near China's south coast. They watched it take off. U.S. monitors watched as the balloon settled into a flight path that appeared to have taken it over the U.S. territory of Guam. But somewhere along that easterly route, the craft took an unexpected northern turn, according to several U.S. officials, who said that the analysts are now examining the possibility that China didn't intend to, quote, penetrate the American heartland with their airborne surveillance device. The balloon floated over Alaska's Aleutian Islands, thousands of miles away from Guam, then drifted over Canada, where it encountered strong winds that appear to have pushed the balloon south into the continental United States, the officials said, speaking on the condition of anonymity to describe sensitive intelligence. So, yeah. They knew about it the whole time? Like, we're putting dots together, people. I'm just saying. So, in a recent article titled Media Spy Balloon Obsession, A Gift to China Hawks, Fair.org's Julianne Chwitten documents the ways the Western media have been committing journalistic malpractice with their obedient regurgitation of U.S. government slogans about a Chinese spy balloon, despite a complete lack of evidence for this claim. Despite this uncertainty, U.S. media has overwhelmingly interpreted the Pentagon's conjecture as fact. The New York Times reported that the United States has detected what it says is a Chinese surveillance balloon, only to call the device the spy balloon. Without attributive language within the same article, similar evolution happened to CNBC, where the description shifted from suspected Chinese spy balloon to simply Chinese spy balloon. The Guardian once bothered to place spy balloon in quotation marks, but soon abandoned that punctuation. Given that media had no proof of either explanation, it might stand to reason that outlets would give each possibility, spy balloon versus weather balloon, equal attention, yet media were far more interested in leading credence to the U.S.'s official narrative than to that of
China.
So, yay. Friend of the show, Fiorella Isabel from the Convo Couch says, what's really behind the latest UFO media frenzy? The truth is out there, and if you, quote, want to believe, understand the truth, is much more down to earth than the sensationalist headlines the U.S. and its media arm are pushing. Always ask what's being hidden and not being said. So she brings video with that. Go ahead.
No, it just, and I thought about this more, you know, like, again, we were talking about Southwest a little earlier, but I thought about this because, and I happened to be home, well, Jersey with my mom, over Christmas. So, like, so I really wasn't, so I had a lot more time to watch local news, in like the New York metro area. So, and all they were basically pushing was Southwest. So it's just kind of like, it just made me think in terms of like, since they're pushing this so hard, what are they not talking about that I think it's more of a bigger issue that, you know, like, that they should be saying, but are not, you know?
I don't know, the fact that we had an international act of war, probably, and we have a chemical spill in Ohio.
Right.
You know? So anyway, so she brings us some video.
America has turned into a real-life version of the X-Files, seeming to be in a collective meltdown after shooting down a number of unidentified flying objects from its skies over the past week. It has even had to downplay fears of an imminent alien invasion.
I just wanted to make sure we address this from the White House. I know there have been questions and concerns about this, but there is no indication of aliens or extraterrestrial activity with these recent takedowns.
Washington dithered for days before shooting down a Chinese weather balloon. Yet it now seems to be trigger-happy, as it blasts any object it sees as a potential threat. But the timing has aroused suspicion, coming soon after Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Seymour Hersh alleged that the US blew up the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. A former US intelligence whistleblower suggests that UFO sightings are often used as a distraction.
It's not aliens. I wish it were aliens, but it's not aliens. It's just the old engineered panic. An attractive nuisance ensuring national security reporters get assigned to investigate balloon bull rather than budgets or bombings, a la Nord Stream. Until next time.
And the developments have been greeted with mockery and skepticism.
Don't worry, just some alien friends of mine stopping by.
While a former FBI agent with top-level security clearance insists that the latest sightings could be part of a false flag alien invasion.
Military officials that are working with the cabal because they really need to get the fear up to get back on the map with this fake alien invasion. And we're going to see a lot more politicians start supporting the Tic Tacs and the UAPs.
Hersh has predictably been dismissed as a crank and the story of fantasy, but it is just the latest evidence that points the finger of suspicion at Washington, including comments from senior US officials and the president himself.
If Russia invades, that means tanks or troops crossing the border of Ukraine again. Then there will be no longer a Nord Stream 2.
Like you, I am, and I think the administration is very gratified to know that Nord Stream 2 is now, as you like to say, a hunk of metal at the bottom of the sea.
During the 1950s and 1960s, a spate of UFOs was spotted over the US, leading to conspiracy theories about an imminent invasion. Roswell became a haven for conspiracy theorists and cranks, convinced that aliens were being experimented on there, with a trove of articles and mysterious footage circulating. Hundreds of Hollywood movies were made, in part to keep the US public fearful of the Soviet Union, with the UFO phenomena deeply rooted in anti-communism. Most infamously, panic ensued after a 1938 radio broadcast of H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have a grave announcement to make. Incredible as it may seem, both the observations of science and the evidence of our eyes lead to the inescapable assumption that those strange beings who landed in the Jersey farmlands tonight.
But it later transpired that there was a simpler explanation for many of the unexplained phenomena. the Pentagon was conducting covert experiments with new military technology and spy planes. And the CIA admitted to planting fake stories to make people believe that they were UFOs.
Over half of all UFO reports from the late 1950s through the 1960s were accounted for by manned reconnaissance flights. This led the Air Force to make misleading and deceptive statements to the public in order to allay public fears and to protect an extraordinarily sensitive national security project.
One journalist claims that the latest UFO scare is a psyop aimed at softening up public support for increased military spending as part of a new Cold War against China and Russia.
The UFO stories all over corporate media are being pushed heavily by the U.S. military and spy agencies. Looking back at history, this looks like a psychological operations to hide new experimental technology and/or manufacture consent for increased military budgets and a new arms race with China-Russia. It is known that the U.S. has invested in, with then U.S. President Donald Trump's space fleet widely mocked at the time.
The Pentagon has admitted that it is expanding its space program.
They haven't gotten rid of that.
With the United States Space Force officially becoming the 6th branch of the U.S. military in December 2019. In other words, spying. But now the focus has pivoted to China, Washington's new global rival. Similar tactics are being deployed to scare the public and convince them that Beijing is a threat to the American way of life.
If I could communicate one thing to the American people from this unique vantage point, it is that the People's Republic of China poses the greatest threat to America today, and the greatest threat to democracy and freedom worldwide since World War II.
It is also gaining traction amongst gung-ho Republicans who have long baited US President Joe Biden and the Democrats for being weak on China. Some of them are predicting, even perhaps hoping for a war with China, which is of course surrounded by hundreds of US military bases. As for the UFOs, well, as Mulder and Scully would say, the truth is out there somewhere. Not in a galaxy far, far away, but closer to home.
Governments love to divert and confuse. And here we have big tech. We have these sock puppet media that is just connected and acting as a proxy through shadow government and invisible government, deep state, whatever you want to call it. It's a mishmash. It's a ball of string that's knotted up, and it's so complicated. But here's the best part. The best part is we just love to sit back and say, this is terrific. Is this a UFO? A balloon is not an alien craft. My God, what are we talking about? But then the other day, somebody used the term UFO. Now, that was a term of art. Why did they say that? They didn't say an unnamed craft. And then you have this extremely vague, this people in the military and White House spokesmen. Well, we're not saying it's a UFO. We're not really sure. Deliberately baiting people. But if you think this is diverting the American people and the media from subjects they don't care about in the first place, I could take you to Times Square, a block from here, and ask 1,000 people, do you know what Nord Stream 2 is? They'd say, who? Nord Stream. I've got all their albums. They don't know what you're talking about.
What's that award back there?
Wait, what?
It's like an Emmy? Tony?
People in the military.
No, that's a
Golden
That's
Globe?
not an Oscar. That's an Emmy.
Yeah, one of those.
Yeah.
Okay. Who's that guy, did it say? We can do math. I like that guy. I want to speak to that guy. The great hand talker, Lionel. How you doing, Lionel? Legal and media analyst who will probably analyze this video. But
we're not paying to be for that.
Somebody can find him. Somebody can find them. We got people. But yeah, great hand talker. Like, talk with his hands a lot. I love that. So exciting. You know? Like, really draws you in. Just great. But anyway, I also wanted to point out, normally they stopped using the word UFO. Right? It was like, I think it was like UAP or something like that. Other acronym. Acronym for UFO. UAPs. They were calling them UAPs. Like unidentified aerial phenomena, I think, is what they were using it as, if I'm not. So like now they're going back to like UFOs.
Right.
You know, so yeah, interesting little tidbit there. So remember how he was talking about how the US Space Force and stuff were like doing that? Now we're claiming China's doing that. Okay. So here's the perpetual shadow ban. I mean, I'm no expert in military intelligence, but if you want China to believe you that you also aren't spying on them with balloons, perhaps you should be a little more discreet than bragging about it to Politico like they did back in June. So, U.S. military's newest weapon against China and Russia, hot air. The Pentagon is quietly transitioning high-altitude balloon projects to the military service. So, yeah. An unmanned aerostat. Okay. U.S. rejects China's accusation we are not flying balloons over China. The assertion came after the U.S. shot down a suspected Chinese spy balloon. They're going, yeah, but like you guys are. Like.
As we were doing it.
Right. It's like, what's the blame? Isn't that Goebbels? It's like blame the other person for what you're accused of doing. Right. So also to point out, we used a Sidewinder missile to shoot this weather balloon down. Okay. Weather balloon. It's definitely a weather balloon, not a Chinese fucking spy balloon. Okay. That's $450K a piece. They missed with the first one, Collin. They missed. So that's two. You sent two right. Sidewinders at $450. So that was a fucking $1 million fucking gender reveal party. That's what that was. Like, it's a boy. Like, anyway, so the Pentagon's reluctance to describe the objects or show any debris that may have been recovered has fueled speculation about their potential extraterrestrial origin. Space magnate Elon Musk joked about, quote, friends of mine stopping by. Meanwhile, opposition lawmakers have expressed frustration at the lack of official explanations by White House. Rand Paul sits on the Homeland Security Committee, demanded the Pentagon and the president tell us what they know and what they don't immediately. What in the world is going on? Wondering fellow Kentuckian and Senate Minority Leader McConnell on the Senate floor. The administration has still not been able to divulge any meaningful information about what was shot down, he said, asking if the radar sensitivity may have been turned up after the Chinese balloon incident. So, yeah, any thoughts, Collin?
It's just a whole hokum.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fucking.
I'm sure you guys would say, or at least.
Yeah.
They had us the first half. I'm not gonna lie.
They had us the first half. They were like aliens. We were like, oh, we like that show. We like that shit. You know, and then fucking
surprise, motherfucker.
It ain't fucking shit. It ain't shit.
Right.
So, you know, head on a swivel, people.